Hello and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. I'm your host, the whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and this is Black Minds News. Today's date, July 21st, 2019. And what I have on the menu today, we're going to go into Cleveland and about a story that had broke, the ridiculousness of how many shots was taken, how many police officers involved, look at what took place. Again, this is Black Minds News, and this channel is to report, articulate, transmit, communicate, insinuate with good intent, relate, decode, unveil, spread the news, whether by website, videos, or quotes from publications. As I, as your whiteologist, disseminate this information, I ask that the creator of the universe be here, heart, soul, mind, and spirit. Because why? The truth don't need no partner. As a descendant of the greatest people who created this land that you call the United States, we, the BADOS, is Black American descendant of slaves. Some say Black African descendant of slaves. Others say ADOS, which is American descendant of slaves. We, the historical lineage and DNA of our ancestors, we give honor to our ancestors. And you know what my motto is for this show? I'm never going to tell you what I heard. I'm only going to tell you what I know. Stay tuned for this broadcast. Hey, how's y'all doing? Again, this is the host, Mr. Blows Your Mind, and this is Black Minds News. Welcome. First and foremost, I want to say what's good to subscribers that should be subscribing to the show, whether you're new or old. Black Minds News, appreciate you for taking time out to see what content we have presented today. Thank you for your participation. Passerbys, again, this is the most hated show on the black corner of the internet. If you should happen to took the wrong turn on the internet and somehow stumbled up over here, you have been chosen to find the most hated show in the black corner of the internet, and we welcome you here. And if you want to go down the aisle, if you see something you might like, if you should happen to see something that just offends you a little bit, don't be pissed off, because again, the truth don't need no partner, and it's here not to actually hurt you, but it's in here to enhance and make you a better individual. Now, let's get into this show here right now. Man, you know, again, it seems like this show over here, the Black Minds News, seems like we're always having the issues dealing with police. But I don't know if it's just the fact of that or just that's what it is. It's just always constantly happen. And again, as part of the black media of today, we have to be informed about all the situations and look at it. And again, as news is a kind of reciprocal thing. It goes in cycles, right? So there's always the beginning when you first hear the initial story, and then there's what the process of after that, and then it's the results afterwards. So here's a situation of a story that goes back, you know, I'm not going to say I think, I'm going to tell you what I know, right? We're going to tell what you think, we're going to tell what you know. I actually did this story when it originally broke, but I didn't produce it because at that time I wasn't really doing news. Those who are long listeners to this show know I had different ways that I used to do my presentations, right? So I knew about the story, didn't do the story, but now I'm doing the story because again, it has come back. And again, when you see this, you make your assumptions or you make the call, as they say, right? And you see, and you tell me, because I'm going to tell you what I think after you see it. So stay tuned for a quick second and I'll be right back.
In the U.S., protests have greeted a judge's decision to acquit a white police officer charged after killing an unarmed black couple in a hail of bullets. The verdict in the 3-year-old Cleveland case is raising new questions about racism and brutality in the country's law enforcement agencies, questions that have sparked civil unrest and national soul-searching. Stephen D'Souza has the story.
It began with a high-speed chase in November 2012. 2 people speeding away from police. Their car had backfired. Officers thought it was gunshots and pursued the vehicle. The chase involved 62 police cars, reaching speeds of more than 160 kilometers an hour. It ended in a hail of gunfire. 13 officers fired 137 shots into the vehicle. 30-year-old Melissa Williams and 43-year-old Timothy Russell were killed. Both were shot more than 20 times. Neither had a gun. Of all the officers involved, only Michael Brillo was charged. He fired 49 shots, some after jumping on the hood of the car. He was charged with 2 counts of voluntary manslaughter. Today, a Cleveland judge said the evidence couldn't prove that Brillo alone fired the fatal shots, and his actions were justifiable because, like the other officers that night, he perceived a threat.
Additionally, Brillo was acting in conditions difficult for even experienced police officers to imagine.
As the U.S. deals with simmering tensions over the high-profile deaths of African Americans at the hands of police, anger and frustration greeted the verdict.
I'm going to tell y'all something right now. We have no justice.
This shooting was in part the catalyst for a U.S. Justice Department report that found Cleveland police often used unnecessary and unreasonable force, including the employment of poor and dangerous tactics, where avoidable force becomes inevitable. For Timothy Russell's sister, it's clear what took place that night.
Adrenaline was flowing. By the time they caught up to Tim and Melissa in that parking lot, they simply let them have it.
Cleveland's police chief says the force is still reviewing the actions of all 13 officers involved that night, and Brillo will remain suspended. Meanwhile, the chief and the mayor urged calm, hoping anger at the verdict won't erupt into violence on the streets. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
And now at 5:30, it made national headlines. 13 Cleveland police officers firing 137 shots, a man and woman killed.
Now 2 police supervisors charged in connection with that deadly night. Prosecutors say Sergeants Patricia Coleman and Randolph Daly failed to manage the police chase that ended in the deaths of Timothy Russell and Melissa Williams. Fox News side investigator Scott Knoll is live outside East Cleveland Municipal Court, where opening statements just wrapped up.
Yeah, this case has already been all the way up to the Ohio Supreme Court just to determine whether or not these trials could happen here. Now, nearly 7 years after that shooting, the first of these trials is underway. Sergeants Patricia Coleman and Randolph Daly both face misdemeanor dereliction of duty charges, both accused of failing to control themselves and the officers under their supervision during what prosecutors called a reckless and outrageous high-speed chase that began when a police officer near the Justice Center heard what he thought was gunfire. Investigators say it turned out to be a car backfiring. 22 miles later, that chase ended with 137 shots fired at Heritage Middle School in East Cleveland. Timothy Russell, the driver, and Melissa Williams, who prosecutors say was trapped and kidnapped, died. Although she never fired a shot, today in court, prosecutor Willa Hemmons said Coleman recklessly violated police procedures and policies during the pursuit.
She threw caution to the wind. She threw reason to the wind. She had a get 'em boys, get 'em kind of mentality that rises to the level of criminal.
But Coleman's defense attorney told jurors while mistakes may have been made by police that night, it wasn't by Coleman. Instead, pointing to systematic failures within the city and the department.
You're not going to hear from one witness in this courtroom from law enforcement who's going to tell you that Patty Coleman did anything wrong.
These 2 trials are expected to take 2 weeks. Reporting live in East Cleveland, I'm 5 Underside investigator Scott Knoll.
All right, so you got to see with your own eyes about what I was making reference to. And so what we see that this is a case that goes back to November 2012. And again, you know, it was in the state of Cleveland, or city of Cleveland, right? And we see that, again, they're talking about a nation soul searching, right? Think about that, right? Due to the simple fact that, again, a lot of people have always said that black people lie and that we, you know, make these we pull the race card, right? We always say it's the race card when situations happen. And then now that the all-seeing eye, which is the camera, is now recording the events. Again, you can't lie anymore. It's the events are being recorded. And then the end of what's happening seems to not justify what you see and what you heard, right? And so, you know, to look at this situation, or as they talking about, right, that initially how this whole ordeal, this chaos of magnitude, magnet of proportion of just it's just too big. It's not even a word that you can actually describe what took place here. The magnet proportion of this, it's just way too big. I can't even come up with a word for that. You know why? Because again, as the story talked about, that this initiated from a police officer who they did not disclose, which I think if we're going to go for anybody we're going to start to look at, it should start with him. Now, according to him, he said he heard a car backfired. What he thought was a gunshot, and he pursued them, right? And so by his pursuit and calling for backup, because I guess, you know, I'm going to show you the individuals who were killed, which was Timothy Russell, who was 43. Let me give you the visual for this, y'all. We have Timothy Russell and Melissa Williams, who was 37 at the time. And somehow they're being pursued again as the initial police officer heard a backfire that created this whole 23, they say this was 23 minutes of chase, right? It's a long time, right? Think about 3 minutes in boxing, so 23 minutes chasing, right? Is a long period of time. And so in this chase, Timothy Russell and Melissa Williams get gunned up, as you heard, 137 times into a car. 62 police officers were chasing them. 62 police cars. Huh? You ever seen the movie Blues Brother? You know the scene when they trying to go pay the taxes because they got that money and all the police is chasing them and tearing up damn Chicago doing this one damn scene? That's why they had stopped basically allowing movies to be made in Chicago after the Blues Brothers did all that damn tearing up, right? They didn't let you do no more. But anyway, but that car scene, if you've seen the movie, you know the visual I'm giving you in your mind's eye is imagine that like chasing the Blues Brothers, right? And so they doing it for 23 minutes. Right? Pretty much when you're watching that movie, it looked like about the same period of time. It was a long period of time. It was one of the longest car scenes I've ever seen. So what ended up happening is, again, you see on the screen, Timothy Russell and Melissa Williams end up getting, gunned up. Now, according to them, what they say, there was 137 rounds pumped into the vehicle. Think about that. 137? Is there such thing as overkill? Is there anything such thing as overkill? Let me give you the visual of what the car looked like, right? Now, that's way more. That's not even near 137. But you can see the excessiveness of shooting through the windshield. So that means they were all in front of them, right? Gunning that car up, right? And they claim that there was 13 officers who was doing the shooting, right? 13 officers doing the shooting. So that's like 13 rounds per each cop and some, right? But they don't say that. They say there's only 13 officers who are doing the 137 rounds, but you got 62 cars. I don't know how the math of 13 and 62, you understand, right? So 3 in a car, more than that, right? 5 in a car, math don't add up, right? So anyway. So according to what they end up saying in the autopsy, they say that, they both was shot 20 times evenly, right? There's 137 shots going to Cobb, but they only getting hit with 20. And you see they shoot through the front, right? Matter of fact, they didn't find any gun on them, right? There was no gun. There was no weapons found on them or in the car, which is amazing, right? So you have Michael Brillo, who they said at the time jumped on the hood, and supposedly he's shooting 49 times. Well, he's shooting 49. Now, I don't know how they end up counting. So did you reload? What kind of gun you had? Right? This is the officer, Michael Brillo, right? This is the one that they had. The only one out of the 13 officers that you claim that did the shooting, he's the only one that you put the shooting on. Now, to me, based on you just using him, let him know, he couldn't be held accountable for all that. So was it already kind of tainted by putting him to make him guilty? There was no way you could be guilty. You can't assess and say he did all the 20, 40 bullets in both of them. So wasn't that already kind of set up so he can't be convicted? Think about that. You took one person out of 13 you claim that was the officers who shot 137 times, and he's the only one that's going to be put on trial. And what they charged him for was 2 counts of manslaughter, right? And, you have to ask yourself, how can one man shoot 49 times? What type of gun did you have that they could even assess the fact and made that logically right that one man shot 49 times, and if 13 other cops are shooting, isn't it possible they will shoot his ass? What's the probability you jumping on? I mean, he went back to some 1970 shit. Oh, jump on the damn hood, hold on the back, the car, getting in the shoot. I mean, really? I mean, that don't even sound logically right. Everybody find a weapon. This crazy motherfucker don't run and jump on the goddamn hood and, saying, let me handle this, y'all. But they already shooting. So I don't think that even fit, that square peg don't fit in the round hole. But that's what they told us, right? And so after all that had went through with this trial, this case with Michael Brillo, right? They cleared him and said that it was justified, perceived as a threat. They said that he was justified because the situation was perceived as a threat. Perceived. Not that it was, but in the mind's eye of the police officer, he felt it was a threat. Based on what? An officer heard what he thought was a gunshot that he didn't assess whether it was a backfire of a car or was it really a shot? And to have this excessive amount of police, 62 police cars, 23 minutes chasing individuals who to this day we'll probably we ain't gonna be no problem. We ain't gonna never know what really took place in this, right? We just know that, Timothy and Melissa end up being dead over this situation, right? And you heard that Judge John O'Donnell, he said it was difficult for even experienced officers to imagine to be in a situation like that. It had nothing to do with experience. It was excessive. It was overkill to the max. 137 shots for basically somebody fleeing. Maybe they scared. Again, a lot of times when we see people fleeing from police officers and end up being dead, do you think that they had a sense in them, an instinct feeling that something finna go awry here? That, they say fight, flee, fornicate, right? Those are the things of the human instinct. You're going to fight somebody because, again, you're trying to defend yourself, or you're going to run, which is the flight, because that's the way to escape the danger. And fornicate, well, that's something entirely different, right? But anyway. And so you see that you heard the cousin, Renee Johnson. She said, we have no justice, right? And we've always been saying that there's a two-sided justice system here in this United States. There's the white system. Again, when you look at history and understand how, the stories we have heard over the years and over the decades and the centuries, how people can be convicted who are innocent and people who can be guilty somehow are innocent, depending on the color or ethnicity that you fall under, right? Different types of justice and laws, right? Even though, according to says justice is blind, but we know for some people, you're guilty until proven innocent, and other people are innocent until proven guilty. Let me say that again. Some people are guilty until proven innocent, and others are innocent until proven guilty, right? And yet, but the mantra is innocent until proven guilty, but that's not for all, is it? And so what you end up seeing is the government came in and they did an assessment, evaluation, right? And they ended up saying that employment of poor and dangerous tactics that was charged to the Cleveland Police Department. And that, and they also said that they had, avoidable force becomes inevitable. So what they saying is, based on the assessment that they did, a lot of the situations that were, dealt with in this department, a lot of this could be avoidable, but the way that you set up the circumstances, it leads the inevitable. So it seems like somebody is using, again, we say a lot here on Black Minds News, that sometimes people use their jobs as part of their shield to hide behind who they truly are and who they feel. And so because the end result, either your demise, and they said a dead man or dead person can't speak, then now it's you upholding the system. And the system wants to keep a good rapport by saying that officers are justified, because again, once it becomes known that officers are a lot more dirtier than you trying to say they're not, then, really you're going to have really a bad situation with community and police officers, right? And so after all that was said and done, you see that Officer Michael Brillo, right, end up, right? They fired him, right? And then you know how it is. If you're in the union, you get fired, then you go through the process, go to your union come back and they fight for it, and what ended up happening, he actually got exonerated, right? Now, is he still a police officer? Now, those in Cleveland only would know that, right? And so, but the problem here is, if you claim that there was 13 other officers, then how come all of them were not put on trial? Because again, people would have been accountable and it was a criminal. Again, how could you put manslaughter on one individual when you know there was more culprits? So there was kind of a, kangaroo. It's just a formality. It's making the citizenry believe that, look, we're putting him before his trial. We're going to reprimand him and all. But in the end, with the formalities in the process, what's going to end up happening? It's just going to be like you just go through it knowing at the end that nothing's going to happen to you. Because 6 of the officers is claiming Cleveland were fired in the 2002 or 2012 case. So here it is, 2 people who lost their life for overkill, people overly, again, because the sister, I think it was the sister of what was the brother's name? Timothy Russell. She said that her name was Michelle Russell. She said that the adrenaline, based on the fact, again, it was 23 minutes, them chasing them, that the adrenaline in these cops, by the time they caught up to them and all this adrenaline was flowing in them, she said what? They let them have it. It wasn't even about whether it was justified or not. They were so pumped up and geeked up. Because again, those who might be police officers, they might should hear this. Is that part of, what makes you a good cop? You know what I'm saying? That you done fired your gun before? It seems like motherfuckers been saying, my gun got dust in it. I want to make sure and see if it works. 137 shots. Ain't nobody looking like, okay, damn, you shooting, okay. No, everybody's shooting. But there ain't no weapon, none of that, right? You don't think people might be just scared? That never crossed nobody's damn mind. But, she right. The adrenaline was pumping. And so, again, they assess after all that. Now, again, 6 officers end up being fired. Again, criminal charges. 2 people lost their lives. You can just walk away from a job and go on about your life, and then they don't even disclose who these officers were. Now, again, you only know Michael Brillo. Where's the other 12? No names are being disclosed. So that means that you're going to leave this force, and you probably go find and get you another job at another department, and no one knows other than the police officers know who it really was, unless you part of the family of Timothy and Melissa. You might know. But again, they only put one person in there. So, and again, unless, even when you look at who fired, the 6 that got fired, they don't disclose any names, right? They somehow got anonymity so not to be known. So, again, if you probably would have seen who it is, you already see who Michael Brillo is. Then if you'd have seen all of them, it looked like a lynch mob, huh? That's what it kind of looked like. Overkill, 137 shots. So what they end up doing now is they're going to say, well, we're going to go after the supervisors. Right? We're going to go after the supervisors. Ain't that something? You're trying to find somebody to try to stick, and you end up using this woman here, that Patricia Coleman, right? You see her, right? That's the Patricia Coleman. He said Patty, right? They didn't want Patricia, black. So we got Patricia Coleman, and they had another individual whose name was Rudolph Daly, but you didn't see him because why? They already relinquished him, so they put it more on her. And you heard the woman that was the lawyer in there saying that was kind of get him, right? It was had that mentality, but again, they saying that it was called dereliction of duty. Now, dereliction of duty is the state of having been abandoned and become dilapidated. It would basically just say shameful failure to fulfill an obligation. So they saying the supervisor, what you seen, Patricia Coleman, had a duty to actually say, okay, slow down the pursuit, call off so many. We got too many damn cars. We don't need all these damn cars. Yeah, but she didn't do the killing. So again, you're looking for a scapegoat to try to feed to the community to make this seem that okay, here's the consolation prize that you couldn't get the grand prize. Grand prize would have been people held accountable for the excessive kill of 2 individuals. Basically, was just the assumption of something you heard. You didn't have nothing else, but you was gonna come with a whole lot of charges. Them going through red lights, speeding and all. That's what you're gonna use later. But what initiated that? You had nothing. There was nothing. Now to come back and say a car backfiring? But what was his name? And who was this individual? You're never going to know that, right? So they don't charge her with the misdemeanor charges to failing to control themselves and the officers. Reckless and dangerous police chase. Ain't that something? All that being said and done, and talking about this case will be over in 2 weeks. It's already done, right? I don't know if the family got any money for it. Didn't see anything about that. And here it is now, bring up this case again. It's been just brought up again. And so again, it's always the same old, isn't it? No matter how it seems obvious what took place, it seems like you can't still get the outcome that if it was you in that position, it would be they would have no problem with putting your ass in jail. And, people don't like to admit that shit, but that's just what it is. We know what it is, right? But again, that's just the way it is. Again, they want to tell us that, this is a fair and everything is good. And, but no, it's not. It's a 2 different party system. It's a black system and there's a white system. Until y'all recognize that, and again, the creator is going to constantly keep showing how you look. The vampire cannot see himself. So until you get tired of seeing yourself, make the change. Otherwise, So creator's just going to keep beating you up psychologically. So, again, this is this story here. I want to bring it to you. This is Black Minds News. Until the next show, you know what you got to do at the end of this, right? So, till then, peace, love, and black, and stay all that. Till the next show, y'all. It's all good.
Portions of the following program may be unsuitable for younger or more sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions, behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image, and you will break the enemy.
I'm here to tell you tonight that the businessmen, the mayor of this city, the police commissioner of this city, and everybody in the white power structure of this city must take a responsibility for everything.
Can you feel it? Can you feel it?
Luther and I, and everyone in this arena tonight, are unified by the same great American values. We're proud of our country. We respect our flag. Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Race is when you use your power and influence to subject people into inferiority. Utterances can't be racist.
Look around you, man. They own this shit. They own this couch you sitting on, them shoes you got on your feet, this building, this school, this country, you. We're behind enemy lines, dog.
So you must first of all remember that this system was not originally designed with black people in mind. Right on, and it definitely was not prepared for black people to, in the end, begin to demand their rights and an equal share in this country which they've died for. Right on. Hey, and we definitely are not going back to Africa.
In the church, we used to sing the song, "Good news, the chariot is coming." While you sit here today, knowing that you have come to hear good news, you must realize in advance what good news for you might be bad news for somebody else. What good news for the sheep might be bad news to the wolf.
They say, oh, things are getting so much better for you. In 1849, it was hitting blacks on the head 100 times a day. In 1990, they hit them 48 times a day. Isn't it better? Oh, it's got to be better. You're saying 52 blows.
The only purpose of most black Americans on earth today is to destroy.
I think that's noble. Italians love Italians. When Irish love Irish. But when a nigga loves a nigga, it's an unpardonable sin. They have blood in their hands. When we say they have blood in their hands, we are not saying him, George Bezos, went and killed. But white people colonized us. They dispersed us. They enslaved our people. They sucked our economy dry. They are still sucking it dry even today. That's white people, Tony Blair, George Bush, Napoleon Bonaparte, Leopold, Adolf Hitler, Benjamin Netanyahu. All white people, they are the same. They are racist and they are full of hate.
I've been waiting for you. You have many questions, and though the process has altered your consciousness, you remain irrevocably human. Ergo, some of my answers you will understand, and some of them you will not. Concordantly, while your first question may be the most pertinent, you may or may not realize it is also the most irrelevant.
Why am I here?
Our world is coming crumbling down. The coons are coming.
You got to understand that white America has an uncanny way of making the victim the victimizer. Excuse me, master, for putting my head in the way of your club. Not that your club is brutalizing my head and putting hickeys on it. My head got in the way of your free swing and broke your shiny stick, and I want to apologize for that.
Your life is the sum of a remainder of an unbalanced equation inherent to the programming of the Matrix. You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision. While it remains a burden assiduously avoided, it is not unexpected and thus not beyond a measure of control, which has led you inexorably here.
There are more connections in the human body than there are stars in the galaxy. We possess a gigantic network of information to which we have almost no access.
Matrix is older than you know. I prefer counting from the emergence of one integral anomaly to the emergence of the next, in which case this is the 6th version.
5 months before me. 3. There are only 2 possible explanations. There were 5 months before me. Either no one told me, or no one knows.
Precisely. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equations.
Can't control me! I'm gonna smash you to bits! Let me show you! You can't make me do anything like Chris!
Choice. The problem is choice.
Let us remember that we are not brutalized because we're Baptists. We're not brutalized because we're Methodists. We're not brutalized because we're Muslims. We're not brutalized because we're Catholics. We're brutalized because we are black people in America.
Because white people made him to be what he is. They made him to look evil, because that's their role, to make all of us black people to look evil and to hate ourselves. I can't hate.
You're a nigga till you die. If you're a poor nigga, you're a poor nigga. If you're a rich nigga, you're a rich nigga. But you never stop being a nigga, and if you get to be educated, you're just an educated nigga.
Well, I'm told every day I'm on air that I'm racist because I call out racism. That is maddening to me, and I'm crying about it because it's crazy.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching you and I and trying to tell the white man to get this powder keg out of his house. Let the black man separate from his house. Let the black man have his own house. Let the black man have his own land and his own property.
I thought the bitch was white! Damn it! I thought the bitch was white!
That's true. I think that white people are so guilty, knowing what they've done to black people, that they feel if the deeds were reversed, they would hate the black man if he had done the same thing to them. So it's actually, it reflects a guilt complex on the part of whites when they ask us, do we hate them? And if you notice, Uncle Sam has formed a habit of going all over the world. He calls it the ugly American, or the American image. He thinks that everybody hates him because it's a guilt complex. And if you think that if you are worried about Europeans hating you, and they're your allies and your cousins, well, naturally it would follow for you to think that Negroes in this country would hate you, especially in light of what has been done to black people in this country by white people.
Now, check it out. The white ball dominates everything, right? Knocks the shit out the yellow ball, the red ball, right? And the game's over when the white ball drives the black ball completely off the table.
But you have to see that all of this is hypocrisy.
I love Malcolm. Malcolm called me the Sunday that he died. I was working Basin Street East. said, Brother Greg, you coming by today. And I said, Malcolm, I love you. And I said, I love you so much, I don't even want to take a chance to be there. He said, what do you mean, Brother Greg? I said, well, I close tonight, Sunday night at Basin Street East. And I said, but I had my wife book me a flight into Chicago at 8 o'clock this morning. And I'm going to Chicago, and I had way beneath my salary, booked me into a college about 10 miles from the airport. And I'm going to go there and speak this afternoon, and I'm going to stay there until they tell me you dead. Because I'm not going to let this government get two of us for the price of one. And I'm going to call Adam Clayton Powell when I finish talking to you and beg him not to come there. Because today, the United States government is going to get you.